what are you hopeful about or maybe fearful about for Chile?
As I said, crime scene right now, it's getting super bad, and I fear for my family actually. We have a lot of good things, for sure.
But should we talk about the negatives? Are there negatives? Let's get into the negatives.
Right now, the country actually is living a period of delinquency.
Let's talk about that. I was seeing a little bit in the news. There's been some political instability there recently, within the last year or so.
Yes.
What's going on?
A lot is going on. Like the government, it's like, from my point of view, like when you don't love your country, you will do whatever you have to do, you know, to earn money, whatever, you know. And I feel like that's happening in the country. Like everyone is stealing, you know, while you're trying to, why this has to be this way if you are taking all the money, you know? So that's happening a lot. And I don't want to talk much about politics, but
sure, whatever you feel comfortable discussing.
But right now, I think the most demanded topic right now, it's delinquency. It's getting out of hands, and it's terrific. Like seriously, what you live there, it was so secure, the country. You can walk at night, and it was pretty chill, pretty much like LA.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, crime is anywhere in the world. You know, of course, be safe. But in the main, right, you can walk around. It's not a problem. You know?
Exactly. Okay, yeah. But right now, like.
So it's like when you say, you mean delinquency in the sense of crime, basically. Yes. Crime is getting out of hand. Okay, okay. And this is, I mean, and actually it's interesting, that's happening in a lot of US cities too, by the way, at the same time. It's becoming a major controversial topic, which we will also not get into in this episode. And this is, I'm assuming this is it a lot of sort of gang related, or is it more petty crime, just like people are just running wild in the streets? And here it's more of that, honestly. It's more just like, no, people are just being violent. They're just like, they're gonna rob something, they're gonna like whatever, attack someone. There is major gangs issues, but that's a slightly separate topic. In Chile, what is your sense? Is it?
Yeah, gangs. Like, So we were like a closed country, right? Nobody came into Chile until it started like getting super weird, and at some point they didn't register, I think, the immigrants. I'm not blaming them or whatever. It's just that some gangs came from other countries and populated it.
Yeah, that's a very tough subject to get into, and obviously US, this has become a huge issue in the last 20 years or so. This idea of making sure that good people come in, bad people don't.
Exactly.
There are some people who want nobody to come in, people who want everybody to come in, and it's like, where do you strike that balance on? And that's certainly, my personal view on this is, you should always have some amount of people coming in and out of a place, and you want good people to come into your place. You also don't want bad people in your place, and you need to deal with that. And unfortunately, I find, as I don't know as much about the politics of a lot of other countries, but certainly for the US, it seems people can get so stuck on their team for their side. They're like, well, our side believes X, and that's why that's right.
Yes.
That they sometimes, I think, lose the bigger picture, and that applies, I think, both to the left and the right here. Yeah, speaking of that, without getting into this, we won't delve into like our political views, but in terms of the type of government that Chile has had since Pinochet, whether it's sort of a left-wing, right-wing government, because again, outsider perspective here, but a common stereotype of Latin American countries is increasingly like the US, actually. They look more like the US. You have these really extremist, either like they're left-wing and they're borderline communists, or they're right-wing and they're like, we think Mussolini was kind of a good guy, and we'd like to bring some fascism to Argentina now. Like, and it's like one of the two. There's nothing in the middle. Is that what's in the case with Chile? Like, how does that fit in with the?
It's super harsh. Like, from one point, it got like left left hand, you know, then right side, left side, right side. Each government was like that. So we were from extreme to extreme, I guess. They all have their ideas of what is good. But right now we have a left side government and a lot of controversy.
Future episodes, I might delve into this when I feel brave enough as individuals. But I don't know. At the same time, I mean, this is partly, ultimately what I'm hoping to kind of do with this is, I feel that when you talk to people as individuals, a lot of the craziness does go away, actually, and I'd like to hope that it would be somehow possible for more people over time to, not always just have to play for this team and be like, this is my team, and anybody who's not on my team is an evil person. And try to find some space in the middle and a little bit of compassion while not being stupid, still being smart. It's tough, but those are roughly kind of where my views are, I think, and I feel that when you go too far, frankly, in either direction, you go down really bad paths, I think, for most people. And most people, we want to live our lives, we want to have our friends, we want to have our family, we want to, have work that's could be meaningful, sometimes not. Some people don't care. They're just like, hey, I'm fine being an accountant, punch in and go home, Nothing on accountants, I know a couple. Sorry guys. But yeah, like we don't need the team political tribalism stuff all the time. And it's too bad that it sounds like that's the case there. And increasingly that is the case here too, which I think more people are starting to see. So we'll see how it plays out. Yeah, what are you, I guess, hopeful about or maybe fearful about for Chile and the country's future? Either one or both,
Okay, yes. I feel like I am fearful about, as I say, crime scene. Right now it's getting super bad, and I fear for my family actually, because they had suffered robberies and stuff like that, and it's getting like super scary, But besides that, I feel like everything else we can talk about it, But with this, when they just point a gun at you, it's something. No.
Is that, you said it's something we can talk about? Is the sense that people don't want to talk about the crime, or some people want to pretend it doesn't exist, or is there another level here to why this is a complicated topic?
Yes. So it's complicated because every time that, for example, you commit a crime, right? You go to the police station and you are released. Because then you have to come back to this judge, whatever, and they're like, okay, you're guilty. We have enough proof, whatever. But once they go out of the police station,
who's gonna go back, right?
Right.
Remember, we're gonna send you to jail. Please come here 2 weeks from now so you can go to jail.
Exactly. So.
Doesn't seem like a great strategy. Yeah.
No.
A great strategy. And that's been more recent, or has that been the case for
forever?
It's been the case forever. Wow, that's kind of that's the total opposite of a lot of other countries where it's just like they're just arresting other people. You hear about people being arrested on no charges in some. I'm not going to name certain names and certain other parts of the world outside of the Western Hemisphere where like that stuff happens. Even certain communist countries, and I don't know that much about Venezuela or Cuba, but I could imagine like that kind of stuff might happen. But the idea of it's like, oh no, we actually just aren't arresting anyone. We're just sort of That's another sort of really the whole topic of being in prison and crime and arresting people and stuff. That's another huge issue. The prison population in the US is probably too high. In other countries maybe it's too low. Like because that is often cited in the US, like the prison population is way too high, and I would agree it probably is too high, and I'm sure there are a lot of people there who, in the scheme of things, probably you don't need them to be there. But the flip side is, right, you don't put anyone in prison, or you put like very few people in prison, and now people who kind of maybe should be in prison are not, and it's a problem.
Of course it depends on the crime that you commit, right?
Yes, of course.
But either way, we are full of the prisons are full.
Really? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah, crime is a hard issue. At some point, I'd love to maybe talk to, I guess, people who study criminology, who are, lawyers, prosecutors, right, who do this kind of stuff. Be curious to learn kind of more about that and see, like, how does that work? What are problems that people are facing? Because that's increasing a massive issue here now. And it goes, the funny thing is it seems to go in cycles. So in the US, the 70s and 80s were infamous for these really high crime rates. That's where the whole, I don't know if you even heard this growing up, right? The reputation of New York City being like super dangerous. They're like, oh, don't go to New York City. Like you're gonna get, that came from the 70s and 80s where it was this really, it wasn't like certain country, it's not like Caracas or something where like my understanding is Caracas, sorry for people to know that. I know a couple people from Venezuela who live in the US now and they're like, it's a tragedy. Like that place is, you read accounts of people in Caracas and they're just like, yeah, I go out my front door and I'll just like get robbed like today, like next week. Like it's just like, it's a war zone. But New York had that stereotype kind of I think well worth it in the 70s and 80s. And I grew up in the suburbs and even when I came to other places and I told people like, oh, I'm from New York, they'd often say like, ooh, is it dangerous there? Like, is it like, how, like, are you gonna get mugged? And I had to explain like, no, it's fine now. They cleaned it up. And that was in the early 2000s and 2010s, it was very safe. Now there's a big crime spike there again. And I wonder, if this stuff is ever cyclical. Like
probably, yes.
Was there a period before this, right, where you said it was much safer and you didn't have this issue to the same?
Yes. I don't want to say that it's because of the dictatorship stuff, but I believe it's...
Yeah, that's always that's another real thorny topic when you get into left and right wing and like what it's like. It's like, well, our government did terrible things, but, the left wing, it's like, our government did terrible things, but we did have, X. Like,